Welcome back to Gaming with Pants, and today it's another story time with Nate Pants. I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded anything. I've been meaning to get back to it. I'm trying to get back to it. Hopefully I'll be able to get back to it soon. This is just a story time because it just happened, and it's kind of weird. It's something that I never knew that could happen. So I'll just jump in the story, and then you'll see. So my wife, she's been having back problems, the sciatic down her leg, down her left leg. And so on Thursday, the Thursday before the 4th of July, I took her to the clinic and they gave her just some fatty ibuprofen and some Flexerol. Now, Flexerol, if you don't know, is just a general muscle relaxer. I mean, there's pretty much nobody that I've talked to that goes to the doctor for that kind of thing that doesn't get Flexerol. Like, that's like their general handout. So she took the medication on Thursday night. She took it on Friday. She took it on Saturday, and she took it on Sunday, and she was starting to feel a lot better. Well, Sunday night we go to bed, and I fall asleep, and an hour later she wakes me up, and she is just babbling crazy. There are people in the house. She's talking to them. There are people that she works with, and there's like orders coming in that she needs to make, and I'm like, no, you must be like, just sleep talking or whatever. But then like she gets up, and it's like, okay, like whatever, and like I got to make a sandwich. I need to make this sandwich. It's like, no, you don't need to make a sandwich. So I go and I talk to her, and like she's awake and she knows who I am, and we talk. And then it's like, okay, like, and then she's like, oh, well, that's weird. That was like a dream, like, okay. I'm like, all right, like, let's go back to bed. So we go back to bed, and she falls asleep really quick. And it takes me a little bit to go get back to sleep. And all of a sudden she hops up, and I figure, oh, she's got to go to the bathroom. So I'm laying in bed, and then I hear like things banging around and clanging in the back room. And so I get up, I'm like, come, and I find her, and she's in this room, in the back of the house, the back bedroom. There's nothing in here. And she's freaking out, and she's pulling stuff, a little bit of stuff that's in here out. And she's telling me like, oh no, the dog pooped everywhere. There's poop everywhere. And I'm like, kind of like half awake, and still I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And I kind of look in the room, and I'm like, I can't, unless she already cleaned it up, but she's like got stuff to clean up dog poop out. And like, she's like, boom. And our dog has only ever gone potty in the house once, and that was our fault because we didn't let her out. She came and whined to us when we were in bed, and both of us were like, no, just leave us alone. Like, leave us alone. And then when we got up a couple hours later, she went poop by the back door. So she's never gone in the house other than that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I look in, and I'm like, oh no, it's either she's already cleaned it up, but you'd also think if there's as much poop as she's talking about, there would be a smell. There's not, like, you can't smell anything. And so our dog gets really, really upset with people even if you raise your voice, like if I'm like watching a basketball game and I'm like, yeah, she like freaks out and goes and hides. So I gotta be on the DL on a lot of things. So she's in this room hiding underneath a bench, and she runs out. And as she's like trying to run out, my wife's like, oh no, stop her. She's covered in poop. She's covered in poop. So I grab her collar, and I'm like, all right, I got her. And then she comes over and she starts like trying to clean the dog. Like she's like cleaning the tail and like the back legs. And I'm like, where's the poop? I don't see any poop on her. Like I know I'm not completely awake, but I don't see any poop on her. Like, what's going on? And she's like, oh no, there's poop. Like, she's covered in it. You don't see it? You don't see the poop? I'm like, I don't see any poop. There's no poop. Like, and so then I look in the room again, and I'm like, well, where's the poop in there? And I let go of the dog. I'm like, there's nothing on her. So where's the poop in there? And so she's like walking into the room, and she's like stepping over stuff. And she's like, but there's nothing there. And it's like, there, you don't see that? You don't see that one? And it's like, no. And then she has that towel in her hand. And it's still clean, by the way. I mean, she rubbed the dog down. I mean, it needs to be washed, but I mean, there's not like poop all over it. So then she like gets down, and she like rubs the carpet and holds it up to me. And she's like, don't you see that? No, nothing on there. So I get her calmed down. It's like, get her to realize there's nothing, there's no poop in the bedroom, in that room, you know. And I'm like, okay, let's go back to bed, you know. And so we go back to bed, and every 10 minutes she's freaking out about something, and she's seeing people in the house, and she's talking to the people in the house, and she's tearing the bed apart looking for her pants. And I'm like, you have your pajama pants on, like, you don't need pants on. And she's like, no, there's people in the house. There are people in the house, and I can't be seen like this. And I'm like, okay, well, why? Okay, like, so I get her calmed down, and then it's like back to bed. And then 10 minutes later, and then one time she jumps up and jumps into the closet and then slams the closet door shut. And I'm like, what are you doing in there? And she's like, I'm putting on clothes. I'm like, why are you putting on clothes? And she's like, well, there are people in the house. There's nobody in the house. It's just me and her. And so finally she comes out, and she's dressed. She's got like jeans on and a t-shirt. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, well, I need to go to work. And I like grab my phone. I'm like, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, man. Like, what? You know, you don't have to be at work until like 9 tomorrow. Like, this, I have to get up at 5, and I haven't got any sleep because you're keeping me up doing all this craziness, and I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, you know, maybe we should go to the emergency room. Maybe we should like go and find out, like, you know, something's obviously not right. And she's like, no. I'm just gonna go. We're gonna go back to bed. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be all over. It's gonna be good. I'm like, all right. So she just keeps doing it. I mean, we're not at home. We walked down to where she worked. We did all kinds of things. And I mean, they're like real to her, like just totally. I've never been around somebody like straight up hallucinating like this. This is fucking nuts. This is just absolutely insane to me. I have no idea what to do. And so again, I'm like, hey, you know, we need to go, you know, let's go to the emergency room. By this time, it's like 2:30 in the morning, almost 3. And she's like, nope, I'm fine now. I'm fine. Let's just go back to bed. And that'll be it. And I'm pretty annoyed. So I'm like, okay, so we'll do what you're saying. But if you wake me up one more time or have one more of these freakouts, we are going to the emergency room. Do you agree? And she's like, sure. I'm like, cool. So we lay back down, and yet again, like clockwork, 10, 15 minutes later, she is freaking out. But now she is tearing the bed apart because a cat peed on our bed, apparently. We don't even have a cat. And I'm like, we don't have a cat. And she's like, yeah, the cat peed on the bed. I have to change the sheets. And I'm like, you just changed the sheets before we went to actual bed yesterday. She's like, no, like, and she pulls the blankets back, and it's just, there's a clean sheet. And she's like, don't you see it? Do you see it right there? I'm like, no, there's nothing there. What? And she gets, and she's like wafts it, like if you were like seeing if you could smell it. And she's like, oh no, yeah, come smell it. Come smell it. And I'm like, there's nothing to smell. It's a clean sheet. It might smell like your feet right now, but we took showers, so I don't think it's going to be super stinky after like a couple hours. And you haven't even been in bed for a couple hours. You've just been up and down, up and down. So I'm like, all right, no, turn on lights. I'm like, okay. So I start putting on clothes. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're going to the emergency room. Like I said, we're going to the emergency room. And she's like, I don't want to go. She's like, just give it a couple more hours. You know, like, let's see if it goes away. And I'm like, no. You get dressed. We're going. And so finally she's like, all right. I'm like, we'll go. And so while she's going, getting dressed, I pull out my cell phone and I Googled, Flexerol side effects. And the regular side effects are, you know, just normal stuff. Drowsiness, you know, don't operate vehicles, you know, dizziness, slurred speech, that kind of stuff. And then muscle relaxer type stuff. And I'm like, all right. So then I scrolled down a little bit further, and past that, there was the overdose symptoms. Now, here's the thing. I've been with her the entire time after she got her prescription. And I know for a fact that she did not take more than what she was prescribed to take. Neither one of us like to take pills. Me because of my back a long time ago, and that's a whole nother story. But I became addicted to pain pills, and I didn't even know it until they told me to stop taking them. She's had multiple surgeries on her eye, and she hates pain pills, and she hates taking anything like that. So she was even reluctant to take the muscle relaxer to begin with. She wasn't drinking on it. I mean, nothing, like, because you don't want to do that. We're not spring chickens anymore. We're getting older, and you don't want to do that kind of thing. So I'm like, oh man, like right on there is hallucination, and it is everything. It is smell, touch. You can see it. You can, it's every sense, all of them, totally just hallucinating, but it is so real. And so that I'm like, oh, everything clicked. I'm like, oh my God, like, oh no, like maybe she got confused and took one extra one. And then so I talked to her, and she's like, oh no, no. I took them. You've seen me. You've been with me, and I'm like, that's what I was. That's what I'm saying. I've been with you. I know that you haven't taken any more, but I'm asking. She's like, nope, didn't take any more. So I'm like, all right. Well, it says seek immediate medical attention. Now you have to totally 100% agree with me to go to the emergency room. So she's like, all right, I really don't want to go. I'm like, well, that's not really up to you right now. Like, as you're the one hallucinating, seeing things and hearing things, smelling things, touching things. Oh yeah. At one point she said her hand was soapy and she needed to get out of bed to go wash the soap off when she had been laying there for 15 minutes and her hand was completely dry. So weird stuff, a lot of weird stuff. So anyway, we go to the emergency room. So live in a small town. The only time I've ever been to an emergency room, even in the middle of the night, there is nobody at the emergency room. And so I'm like, am I the one that's actually crazy? Am I the one that's seeing things? Is this in my head? Because I've never been to an emergency room. Like, I'm just, yeah, go, And so we go sit down and they're like, oh, you're her husband? It's like, yeah. And they're like, well, we'll ask you a few questions, but when it comes to filling out the paperwork, you can do that and the doctor can go see her. And I'm like, okay, sweet. So we answer a few questions. We get there around 3:00 in the morning. We answer some questions. At this point, she's completely lucid. She's not hallucinating anymore. Like everything's completely normal. So she goes back and I fill out the paperwork and everything's good. So then I go back, and I said, I might have been in the room with her for 2 minutes. And the doctor comes in. And like I said, she's completely lucid at night. Not hallucinating whatsoever. And the doctor's like, okay, so like this is, it's, took Flexerol, like, like that's what they said, and she's like, yep. I only did it what they prescribed me. I only did it the way they told me to do it. Like, I don't know, like, what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, this is nuts. I've never seen anything like this. Doctor, do your doctory thing and fix her, and the doctor is like, well, at this point, it's in your system. It's took it like 8:00 before going to bed. And so it's in your system, and you just have to kind of ride the storm out. So you have two options. One is you can stay here in the emergency room and we'll take care of you through the night. Or if you feel safe, you can go home. And obviously she's like, I want to go home. And I was like, I would prefer her to be home. And I don't want to sit in a chair in the emergency room. And so they're like, okay, you're good to go. So we leave. We come home. She's completely lucid. Everything's normal. We go to bed, and I had called my boss. We got home around 4. So we were only actually at the emergency room for an hour. So that's another record. Just boom. And so we get home, and we're like, okay, we're going to go to bed. I call my boss. I tell him, hey, like, I just got back from the emergency room. I've only had an hour of sleep so far. I have an hour, because it's 4:00 in the morning. I got to get up at 5 to go to work. I'm like, I only have an hour more of sleep. So if I can get that hour of sleep, I'll be in at work. If I don't, then so basically if I'm there, I'm there. If I'm not, I'm not. And I just left the voicemail, and then we went to bed. 10-15 minutes after going to bed, boom, she starts it all over again. She does that until 8:00 the next day. And then she decides that she's going to go to work anyway. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. And she's like, nope, I'm going to go to work. Once she's up and moving around and lucid, she has like a couple of weird, like sees a couple of things, but then she like gets back to where like she's normal. So I don't know if it's like the sleeping while on that was doing it or what, but it was obviously once she was up and moving around, it wasn't so bad. So she ended up going to work. I ended up passing out. I only got like another couple hours of sleep because then my boss calls me and he's like, well, I need the release forms for you to get paid for Friday because we had Friday off for the 4th of July. So I'm like, all right. So I go and look at the paperwork we got and we have no release forms. So I'm like, I got to go back to the emergency room to get a release form. I hope this works. So I go and get the release form. Well, after work, she was completely normal. She got the Flexerol out of her system. She had the best night's sleep she's had in a long, long time. She didn't have the back pain. The Flexerol actually did help with the back pain, caused the weird like hallucinations and stuff. But it was messed up. Like it was messed up. I mean, I've never seen anybody like where they like she was a siding with one of her coworkers over me telling her that she like they're not there, just go back to bed. And she was like, oh no, she's telling me that we're at work and I need to make this sandwich for this customer. And I'm like, but I'm right here, I'm real, I'm holding you, and we're in our house. It was mind-blowing. So anyway, the doctor also said that it can happen with most medications, painkillers, muscle relaxers, anything like that. So keep an eye out. If you get Flexerol or somebody you know gets Flexerol, just keep an eye on them, or any kind of painkiller, any kind of a medication like that. Keep an eye on them. If they start acting a little bit weird, take them to the clinic or call their doctor, or if you have to, take them to an emergency room. But basically, they need to stop taking it and they need to get it out of their system. So this has been Pants. That was Story Time with Pants. It's been a long time. Talk to you guys later.